chosen to make it the same way with the person that I'm dating now. It's like, okay, let's let my kids feel like they've maintained control through all of it, that it's a situation that I am sharing with them. They're still in the driver's seat as far as everything going on. It's like, hey, do you want this person to come over today or not? And if not, then it's like, okay, it's your house also, it's your time. So I want them to feel like it's within their control. So if she does come over, it's a group decision. It's something that everybody is excited about. And so then when she does, then they're like, hey, Sharna's here. And everybody's like super excited and they're running outside and they can't wait to greet her and see her. And it's not me saying, oh, hey, by the way, this is what's happening. And they're just sort of along for the ride and they feel like they're taking a backseat to my life.
What's doing, everybody? Welcome to First Class Fatherhood. I'm Alec Lace, and before I hit you with today's interview, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the link in the description so you can listen to all of the interviews I've done with so many tremendous dads, including Dana White, Deion Sanders, Tony Hawk, and so many others. Now let's get going with today's interview. Joining me now, First Class Father, Brian Austin Green. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, man.
All right, let's start right here. How many kids do you have? How old are they?
Let's do it. I have 4. I have a 19-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
Okay, very cool. I'm right there with you. I got 4 kids myself. So what type of sports or activities you got the younger ones into?
You know what? They're not super into sports and athletics. They're much more into the arts and creativity and all of that. So my second to youngest, Bodie, he's the most athletic of them all. But he's much more of like, I think he's going to end up being like an X Games athlete. Like he's one of those like parkour kids, he's always jumping off of everything and climbing down stuff. And I have a trampoline here and he's always on that. And he's super active that way. My 8-year-old Noah is much more artistic. He's really into the piano and singing and all of that. And then Journey, the youngest one, the 4-year-old, he's still into like dinosaurs and King Kong and stuff like that. So the jury's still out on him. And then my oldest one, Cash, he's really into the arts as well. Like he's studying acting right now, and he's really serious about that. So he's into musical theater and theater itself and acting and all of that. So he's taking that road, which, you know what? It's no real surprise to me. Like I wasn't a big athletic kid. I mean, I would skateboard and I rode like BMX bike and stuff like that. And I was into like ramps and I was a super active kid, but I wasn't really an athletic kid. I didn't really play a lot of sports when I was younger.
Yeah, very cool, Brian. And then if you could just take 1 second here to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
All right. So what I currently do?
However you want to play it.
I've been acting since I was 9. I've been which I didn't see coming. I didn't plan it. I grew up in music. My father is a drummer, so I studied drums when I was younger. And went to school for that, went to all music academies, and that was a big thing for me. I always thought that I would end up being a drummer in some band. I started acting when I was 9. I kind of stumbled into it. A friend of mine at the time was acting. I met with his agent. I did a few commercials and student films because a school that I was going to study music was on the USC campus. So student directors from USC would come over and they'd select kids for their student films and their graduate projects. So I did a few of those. And then acting just kind of took off. It kind of became a career for me. It became one of those things where it was like, I'm sure I wanted to do other stuff, but I just didn't have time. And that's fine. I mean, it's given me an amazing life and an amazing platform now to use.
Yeah, and obviously you've had a very successful career here, Brian. And then so along this journey, about how old were you then when you first became a dad, and then how did becoming a father kind of change your perspective on life?
I was 29 when Cassius was born. Um, that was that was the first that was the first step for me in learning selflessness. I think that was the first time that I really sort of understood and was inching closer toward that sense of like, oh, okay, I act, but I don't necessarily need approval from other people um, to feel good about myself. Like what feels the best is approval from my child. Um, but I was still, 29 was still young. I mean, I had still been working a lot, and it was sort of, that was all a new sort of thing for me. And then as he grew, that progressed. And at the point then when my younger three were born, that was really, that really started the ball rolling for me in figuring out who I was and realizing like I can't fall back on how I was raised and what necessarily I went through and relationships I had with my parents and other kids. Like I can't use any of that as an excuse anymore because it doesn't matter at this point. How long do I want to just sit in a situation and point fingers at other people and say this person did me wrong and that person did me wrong and blame everybody before I look at myself and go, okay, who then do I want to be? And that was, I think, at the birth of Journey, my 4-year-old. That was when things really started coming together for me. And then over this past year and a half with the pandemic and the separation and everything I've been through it's all really been a catalyst for me of a real change of how my brain works and how I think and a different perspective on the world and relationships and people. And I've really taken to heart. I used to be sort of frustrated and annoyed, and I felt so much pressure from this strange sort of pedestal and soapbox that we have to speak from, and that people would pay attention to what I said or what I wore, and that used to bother me. And it's only been over the last maybe year and a half, really, that I've realized I can do so much with that, and I've learned to appreciate it and not. And now when I hear comments from other people and whatever. I find the humor in them. I find like people that sit on some of these sites and literally just try and think of like the worst comments that they can say that will affect you in a terrible way. They're hysterical. So I remove myself from those because they don't know me at all anyway. So it's not really about me, and so I just look at them from the lens of like, just purely comedic, and they're hysterical. People are really funny, and so I've gotten to a point now where I really like experiencing people and hearing their story and really listening and really trying to understand where somebody has come from or where they are currently coming from, because people are very different and have very unique, interesting stories. And my kids have incredible stories, and they have so much to give to me. I've experienced really with my young three, because they're so close in age. They've all been raised pretty much the same, and they couldn't be more different from each other than they are. That was the true realization for me of like, they're not I don't own them. They're not like, they're my kids. So it's my job to raise them, but it's not my job to create them or tell them who they should or shouldn't be. They are who they are. I kind of feel like it's my job just to make sure morally they have a really good understanding of compassion, and they're really good at communicating with people and listening to people, and they approach everything. They know the difference between right and wrong, because I think inherently people do. It's that, sometimes it can be that little voice on your shoulder that I think a lot of people ignore. But that's the as long as I raise them with, I feel, a good gauge on that, then they're going to be who they are. So hopefully they have that moral base. They have that foundation to grow from.
Yeah, really good stuff, Brian. And you mentioned there too your separation and also the quarantine. So I know a lot of the dads that listen here, they're co-parenting, they're in those situations. So what have been some of the challenges for you to co-parent during the quarantine, and what kind of advice maybe do you have for that dad out there who's just on the onset of maybe a co-parenting situation?
Honestly, make the most of it. I think, like, as hard as it is, and as unknown as it can be, and as frustrating as it can be, just try and make the best of it, because I think this quarantine has been a really unique situation. I know in a lot of ways, as far as connecting with my kids and being around the house. So you start figuring out and finding fun things to do outside, and you spend a lot more time with the people that are around you, and make the most of it, because it's not always going to be this way. So I've had this amazing year and a half of doing really fun things at home with my kids, and like doing things like making s'mores, and just like really laughing and swimming and spending time to get like good quality time and doing fun stuff that creates memories. Those are the memories when I was a kid that I still hold on to. I remember the experiences that I had, the fun things that I did, and who was a part of those things. And so I want to be a part of those things for my kids, for sure. I don't want them to have those memories with a nanny or at school. This is a real unique experience, and we're stuck in it. It's like it's all about the person you choose to be while living in this experience. It's not easy for anyone. It's exhausting, and it's frustrating, and money wise, it's extremely difficult for a lot of people. But being frustrated about it isn't going to change it. Isn't going to make it any shorter or make it any better. If anything, it's going to make it worse, because now you are not only at home, but you are angry at home. So make the best of it. That's the one thing with all of this that is within your control, is the person you choose to be living in this time, and living in this space.
Yeah, well said, Brian. I've had so many dads on the show here that have testified that the quarantine, in a lot of ways, have had some silver linings, because they got a chance to get off the road, reconnect with their family, spend more time with their kids. So there was a lot of hidden blessings in the fact that people were forced to stay home during this. And then one more quick hitter on that, I would say, I know for a lot of dads out there that are separated, one of the things they struggle with is when to introduce their kids to a new potential spouse or a new girlfriend. Did you have a certain point that you had to get to in your relationship where you felt comfortable enough to introduce your kids to a new girlfriend?
I thought I did. When I was single, I was really struggling with when to do it and what the rules should be, and how best to do it, and all of that. And when all of a sudden I was in a new relationship, I realized that it's not about when so much as it's about how. I kind of feel the same way with separation. People that go into it trying to play the game of, I don't want it to affect my kids. It's like, it is. There's no way that it's not. So again, the only thing that's in your control is how it affects your kids, whether it's a positive experience or it's a negative one. I've chosen to make it the same way with the person that I'm dating now. It's like, okay, let's let my kids feel like they've maintained control through all of it, that it's a situation that I am sharing with them. They're still in the driver's seat as far as everything going on. It's like, hey, do you want this person to come over today or not? And if not, then it's like, okay, it's your house also, it's your time. So I want them to feel like it's within their control. So if she does come over, it's a group decision. It's something that everybody is excited about. And so then when she does, then they're like, hey, Sharna's here. And everybody's like super excited and they're running outside and they can't wait to greet her and see her. And it's not me saying, oh, hey, by the way, this is what's happening. And they're just sort of along for the ride and they feel like they're taking a backseat to my life. I always try and keep in mind that my home is their home also. And I try and honor that and respect that for them. I want them to always feel that sense of this is our home first, and anybody that comes around, it all needs to fit within our lives, and it's important how we feel.
Yeah, really great stuff, Brian. And then what about as far as discipline? What type of disciplinarian are you as a dad, and is that different than the discipline style that you grew up with?
It is different, but then it's not. I'm very into structure. I'm very into okay, if you're going to play with stuff, play with it, but then before you move on to the next thing, put the last thing away that you were playing with. Like if you're done with that juice box, okay, throw it in the trash. Like don't just leave it on the counter when you're done. Like there's the trash can, where it is. Put your, dump your food in the trash can, put your plates in the sink. Like I try and really keep them structured that way. But I feel like, and I wouldn't even necessarily say that it's a difference in parenting style from my parents. I think it's just a different time. I'm much more open to, as I said before, my kids being who they are and not putting restrictions on them that way. It's like, hey, you are going to wear what you want to wear. You're going to have your hair the way you want to have your hair. Like that's, especially them being as young as they are, I kind of feel like now is the time for you to do that. Like you're 8, you should, if you want longer hair, do it. Like you don't have to wear a suit and go to work, and you don't have a certain uniform to put on. So then don't put that uniform on. You have an entire lifetime to have to do that. So right now, while you're a kid, just be a kid. Like just have fun. Where I want my kids to understand and trust the fact that no matter who they are, aside from moral stuff, like morally, I hold the flame to them a little bit more on that, which is good. I think they're really good kids, and I hear from parents whose houses they play out with their kids, like, oh, your kids are great. They're really respectful. They're all of that. But I really want them to know that no matter what is going on in their life and what they're struggling with or whatever's happening, that I love them regardless. And I want them through life to really feel and know that they can always come to me no matter what is going on. And I'll love them, even when times are tough and even when I don't agree with choices they've made or things they're doing. I still love them. And I think that can become more confusing for kids when you challenge them on these little things that don't affect you. It doesn't affect me how you choose to wear your hair. So why control it? Why be judgmental of it? Why make my kids feel like I I don't like them as much if they do something or wear their hair a certain way or do something that is not the way I would do it. So they're not supposed to do things the way I do it. They're not me. I'm not them. Nobody tells me how to cut my hair or what to do or what to wear, except when I'm at work. We come up with style stuff, hence the beard. But I really try and actively keep that in mind, and it's all conscious effort stuff. Like, it's not, handling situations and making the choices that I make are not they're not necessarily in my nature. They're not like the first thing that pops into my head. Initially things happen and you want to yell at people. You want to do that. I honestly try and take a second and think, how do I really want to, who's the person I want to be in this situation with my kids, and breathe through it. And then you do that. And the more you continue to take the time to make those choices, the more those choices become a habit, become who you are. It's practice. It's the same thing as sports. Like, you may not be an amazing hitter in baseball to start, but you keep going to the batting cages, you keep, practicing, and you get better and better at it by practicing. And I feel that works across the board. That works emotionally. That works in everything that we do.
Yeah, and sometimes it's fun too. One of the things I talk about, like my oldest son, he loved chess at an early age. It's something I never played in my life, so I learned how to play it because of him. And now
Yeah.
we all play it in the family. We love it, so you never know which direction it's going to take you.
It's a cool thing, man. Like my 8-year-old Noah, he's really into the piano, which I grew up playing piano because my dad made me take piano lessons before I could take drum lessons. He was like, you have to learn how to read music, which I still can't do now. I forgot all of that. But it's funny, like now my son is taking piano lessons and he's singing and he's doing all these things. And I'm reconnecting with the love that I have for them and reconnecting with what I loved when I was younger about them. It's amazing how things do that. And it's amazing, like you said, connecting to things that you've never had a connection to before. But it's really cool having somebody that you love so much show you their passion for something. And it becomes your passion because it's theirs. Your passion is them. So then within that within that, their passions become your passions as well. It's fun.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
really cool being a parent.
Yeah, I love it. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life. And then on that note, I know with the musical note here, I recently had Maxim Chmerkovskiy on the podcast here.
Oh, did you?
He came runner up, the Sloth there on the show. What was the experience like for you to Masked Dancer? And did your kids watch it? What was their experience like to see you on the show?
My kids, well, I did Masked Singer first. I thought, oh, this will be fun to watch with my kids when it finally aired. That was a hard situation. One of the hard things, I don't know if Max told you this, he might have, is, when you do it, you're secretive. You don't tell anybody that you're doing it. And then at the point when you're eliminated and you take off the mask and there's the unveiling of you, the job's not over. You still have like a month and a half before it airs. So you're still at that point, like, not talking about it, keeping, mum's the word. Like when it comes up and people go, hey, I think you're the sloth. You can't, I was getting DMs from people going, I think you're the giraffe. And I was like, just ignoring people because I didn't want to get into it. I felt like, I was a dick. I didn't want to lie about it. So I was like, God, how do I handle this? I'll just ignore it. But Dancer was super fun, man. I really became friends with Max after that. He's a super nice guy. He's a great dad. He loves his son. He and his wife have a great relationship. It's cool. It's been a really cool year. I mean, Dancer was really fun because it was a job that I didn't see coming at all. Like, I didn't pursue it. It wasn't something that I tried for. It just came to me, and it fell right in line with the path personally that I'm on. It was just this real positive, fun, entertaining thing. It was like, let me really make people feel good about performing and entertaining people. Let me joke around, have a lot of fun with the people I'm doing it with Ken and Paula and Ashley and Craig, and then then it airs, and I feel like people that watched it saw how much fun we had doing it, and what was really fun was the people that were in costumes that did it as well. Max and all the people that we had tons of fun also, and so it was like, what a cool experience, like to have people on, and they had an amazing time. It wasn't like tough work for them, or you have like someone like Oscar De La Hoya, who I'm a huge fan of. That dude's been famous for as long as I've been alive. Like Oscar De La Hoya is like the man. He's one of the faces of boxing for me. Him, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, like there were the people that you grew up with. It's like, man, that's boxing. Sugar Ray Leonard, they're like the people that I saw when I was younger. And when I watching Clue Packages started figuring out, like, I really think it's him, there was a part of me that was like, there's no way. This dude is not going to take off his zebra head and it's Oscar De La Hoya. Like, there's no way Oscar would do the show. And so when he took off the mask and did the unveil and it was him, it was like, man, this is the coolest experience. And then to hear from him, like, doing this show, like, jump started me back into training and all of that and put me back in that lifestyle. And it really was a catalyst for him. I know professionally, like, he's looking at a comeback and getting back into it and boxing again. And to have played any sort of part in that with a show that I was doing is so cool, because that's the bar for me. Like Oscar De La Hoya. That was the real cool thing. I mean, for me, like, Ice-T in the beginning was cool because he was a rapper when I was a kid, so he was one of those people that really introduced me to this lifestyle that I grew up in and this culture and all of that. But Oscar, man, that was a big one for me.
Yeah, and then speaking about the culture you grew up in, I know Kid 90 is on Hulu right now.
Yeah.
It goes into, you're in it, and
Yeah.
it's a lot different now. Obviously, social media, I think, has changed the entire game, the way the Hollywood or movies are being made now, or anything else. What kind of advice would you give to the parent out there that does have a young kid that's interested in pursuing an acting career, or that they're trying to get their kids into the industry? I mean, it's a lot different now, but what kind of advice would you give to them?
I don't know. It's a hard question. Honestly, I think just, like, morally stay on top of your kids and make sure that they're grounded that way, that they trust that voice in their head and that gut feeling, and that they embrace it and they understand it. I think that was one of the things for me, like, growing up in this business, that played a vital role in me making it through and feeling as comfortable as I do now, was the fact that I always had, like, a strong moral compass. I always had a real strong feeling of understanding of right and wrong. And I mean, a lot of kids didn't make it out of the business or didn't make it to adulthood because it was too much for them. And I get it. I mean, I can understand all the trappings of the business. I didn't have those because I honestly always had that voice in the back of my head, helping me decipher right from wrong. And so I made the choice of staying the path that felt the best for me.
Good.
And I always knew that I would have a support system if I did that, and I did.
Yeah, very cool. And what about as far as upcoming projects here? Obviously, you got the beard going here. You got a Moses role coming up. What kind of projects or movies are you working on now? We could be looking forward to here.
Why does a beard have to be Moses, man? Come on. You know, Jesus had a beard.
Well, there you go. And the Passions too.
Yeah, I'm doing a film. I'm starting a film the end of this month called Pacerville, shooting in Sacramento. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's just the beard is sort of a choice for the character. I don't want to give anything away, but it as an actor, you just try and find these little things that help you connect more to character and guys lucky enough have this to do. Women have hair, which men can do a little bit of, but not nearly as much as women. But guys have this. We can always grow different goatees and soul patches and all these different things to help us when we're looking in the mirror feel a little closer to this person that we're creating. So you do that with facial hair and with clothing and all of that. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, very, very cool. And last thing I'm going to hit you with here, Brian, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about-to-be father who's out there listening?
Just hang on and enjoy it, man. It's a wild ride. It really is. I always tell people that have like stepkids. It's great that you have stepkids. That's an amazing thing, but there's nothing like, you can't explain the experience to anyone. They just have to experience it, of holding your own child, like going through that, and holding your own baby and knowing like I was a part in making this person. There's something really amazing and magical to that. Just enjoy it. Like even when it's hard, make the choice to enjoy it being hard. Like try and find the positivity in everything, because you can't change that. You can't change getting up in the middle of the night, or getting kids ready for school, or being tired, or you can't change that. So it's all about how best to mentally handle those situations. And I always feel like, for me, finding the most positive way of dealing with them, it ends up becoming the easiest, because at least you take that stress of that like tension of you want to break something, and I'm exhausted. Like you take the anger out of it, and and instead you laugh about it. It's like, I'm exhausted. I need an extra cup of coffee today. So drink it. Like it'll all be okay. And then, because you know what, at the end of the day, you're raising people, and so you want to give them the best life possible and the best guidance possible. And it's not your job to be their friend. It's kids only for the rest of their lives have one father and one mother, and that's it. So it's great that your kids like you, but being their friend is not your job. Like really being that moral voice, that compass, being that person that loves them and is there for them and they feel safe with, is so important, because friends come and go through their lives, but their parents are always in their lives. And little things that you say and do, those are the things that people stick to. They always go, oh, my mom was this way, and so yeah, I'm the same way, or my dad was this way, and it becomes, when you raise people that way, that imprints on them. So pay attention to how you're imprinting.
Yeah, very well said. I love the message. It's been a lot of fun for me. I got to say, Brian Austin Green, you're a first-class father all the way, and thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on
Thanks,
First Class
I
Fatherhood.
appreciate you having me.